DPS with and like going over healing and stuff. So we're just going to really quick go over this. It's really straightforward. And this is going to be more at level 60, and you're going to have to kind of adjust as you go down. So at level 60, it kind of changes between 50 to 60. Kind of change your whole entire outlook of the class. Levels 1 through 50, you pretty much have where you can run around as much as you want. You can move around a lot. But once you hit, what level is it? I think 52? Yeah, it's level 52. That's when you get Wanderer's Minuet, and that turns you into more of like a caster type role rather than being able to just run around freely. So quickly we'll go over the abilities. We have Heavy Shot. That's the one you're going to be using a lot. That will then have a chance to proc your Straight Shot. Your Straight Shot is basically a buff you want to keep up on yourself at all times. It lasts 20 seconds right now. I think it lasts only like 10 seconds at lower levels, something like that. Where you just want to make sure as you're DPSing, if you don't get any Straight Shot procs, just go ahead and do a hard cast of Straight Shot. That way you can get it up and run it or whatever. At level 6 we get Venomous Bite. It's a dot. You just want to make sure you always have Venomous Bite up, ticking on somebody at all times. We have Raging Strikes. That's a buff. Use it as much as you can. In dungeons and stuff, I tend to not use this until I get to a boss, because I like to be able to burst down bosses as fast as I can. So that's how I play. You can, if you want to, use it on trash pulls and everything, but I just don't. That's just traditionally how I play. Level 8, we get Misery's End. Misery's End, just cast it anytime you have a chance to. It's only got a 12-second recast, and you can only use it when things are below 20%. This, once you have an enemy under 20%, it takes priority over Bloodletter, which we'll go ahead and get into Bloodletter now. Bloodletter has a 15-second recast time, and also it shares the recast with Reign of Death. You use Bloodletter with one target. Reign of Death anytime you have 2 or more targets that can be hit by it. But anyway, back to Bloodletter. Bloodletter, it doesn't go on the GCD, so later on when you have Minuet up and you cast a spell, you can then cast Bloodletter in between your casts. So as you can see, I did Wind Bite into Bloodletter. You can hit it in between your casts. So that's a cool thing to note. Once you hit level 52, you can always cast something and then follow it up with a Bloodletter immediately. So Bloodletter, anytime it comes off the cooldown, it has a trait at level, I think it's River of Blood. Yeah, River of Blood. It's a 50% chance that critical damage over time inflicted by your Venomous Bite or Wind Bite, both your dots, have a chance to reset the Bloodletter or Reign of Death recast timers. So it's just pretty much as you're DPSing, anytime you see Bloodletter come off cooldown, just cast it. That way you're not wasting procs or anything like that. You're just getting it off as much as you can. But again, at level or at 20% health, you will switch. Misery's End will have priority over casting Bloodletter, just because it has 190 potency compared to the 150 potency. Then we have Repelling Shot over here. Repelling Shot is actually really useful. Again, once you hit level 52, if you're close enough to the enemy, you can always cast a Repelling Shot, because it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but you know, any damage is still damage. So you can get a Repelling Shot off in between your casts, so you can do a little extra damage. See, I did 700 damage with that. Just something a little nice to add, 30-second cooldown or whatever. I do it a lot to do a little bit of extra DPS, but you don't actually have to. That's just something you can kind of work into your rotation. Or you can save it if you know you have to dodge an ability or whatever. I use it a lot to dodge AoEs. So that's up to you how you want to use it. Once you know the fights, that's when you can actually kind of get more into it and more either using it for DPS or for dodging abilities. Let's see, moving on now, we have Quick Knock. This should be your go-to AoE ability, because it costs less TP than what Wide Volley costs. by 20. I would like to say I use this, but I don't. It's really strong at level 18. Between level 18 to level 50, Quick Knock is amazing as an AoE filler. But once I hit level 50, I do switch over and start using Wide Volley, because I think it's a little bit too difficult to get all the enemies in your Quick Knock, and I'd rather spend the extra 20 TP to do a little bit extra DPS. Plus, when I do damage anyway, I don't tend to use my AoE abilities. I tend to stick with multi-dotting. I feel like, I don't know 100%, but I'm pretty sure I do more DPS doing it that way and just getting Rain of Death procs. So that's how I play. It's kind of up to you. If you want to go down the Quick Knock Wide Volley route, you're more than welcome. But I don't do that. I think it's just better to multi-dot and Rain of Death. I only really use these two if the mobs are going to die really quick. So speaking of that, we'll go ahead and I think one of the first ones, no, Rain of Death is actually level 45. So we'll go ahead and talk about Swift Song. Swift Song, just use that. It's nice to move a little bit faster in dungeons between mobs. You can cast it. It's just kind of there. Hawk Size, another buff. You just throw it on yourself every 90 seconds. It's really strong. Then you get level 30. That's when you get your Wind Bite. That's your other dot. Just make sure you keep Wind Bite and Venomous Bite both up on the target at the same time. Wind Bite does more damage. Venomous Bite does more potency off the first initial hit. So I prioritize cast Wind Bite over Venomous Bite just because it does that extra little bit 10 potency per tick. So I usually make sure Wind Bite's on the target first. Then we get Quelling Strikes at 34. And most of these are here all going to be songs. I'll talk about songs later. Let's just focus on the arrow, or the abilities right now. So anyway, Quelling Strikes at 34. Reduces enmity. Use it anytime you start to pull aggro. Bards burst pretty hard, so it's good to use after you do a little bit of your bursting to help out your tanks. Barrage. This works really well with Imperial Arrow later on. But for now, you can cast Barrage and always follow it up with Heavy Shot or Imperial Arrow. Once you get Imperial, that's when you want to, at level 54, so you got a little while, probably. But once you get Imperial Arrow, Barrage, Imperial work really well together. But until then, Barrage, Heavy Shot, because you don't want to Barrage and do like Wind Bite or something, because they only do like 60 potency compared to the 150, and you're firing 3 shots off the first initial potent attack. It doesn't do 3 shots off of the dot, so you just want to follow it up with whatever your hardest hitting ability is, and then once you hit level 54, this does 230 potency compared to 150, so it's just best used with Imperial. Then at 42 we have Blunt Arrow. This is a silence. If you know the fight, feel free to Blunt Arrow an ability, but other than that, you can just use it off cooldown to do an extra 100 potency damage. That's what I do. You're more than welcome to do it that way. Then at 45, that's when you get Rain of Death. That's when anytime you have 2 or more mobs, always Rain of Death over Bloodletter. Because again, they share the same recast timer. So if you have 2 or more, because 1 Bloodletter is 150 potency, 1 Rain of Death per target is 100 potency. So again, you have 2 targets, that adds it up to 200 potency. So anytime you have 2 or more, be sure to use Rain of Death instead. Then we get Flaming Arrow. Just anytime you have an AoE situation, make sure that's up. If you don't have AoE, you can cast it under a boss as well to do a little extra damage. Don't prioritize targeting casting this right here. It's really strong, but you want to make sure you use your bloodletter procs and stuff before you get your flaming arrow down. So kind of put it on the back of your mind a little bit in single target, but if you have an AoE, make sure you drop your flaming arrow, because it does do a lot of damage in an AoE situation. And at level 50, that's when we get wide volley. Again, I would suggest using wide volley over quick knock, because it's easier to hit unless you really know that you're going to hit all targets with quick knock. This is a safer option is to use wide volley. It's really how you want to do it. I don't use either one of them very much, but if I do ever have a situation where I want to cast an AoE, I usually cast wide volley. And then after that, level 52, that's when you get Wondrous Minuet. That's when you get turned into a caster. Basically, it adds a 30%. It increases damage by 30%, but adds a cast time to all of your abilities. So that way you can't just run around and be super mobile and do that. Then 54, that's when you get Imperial Arrow. Imperial Arrow is really good used in between your casts, your Wondrous Minuet casts. So let's say I'm putting up Wind Bite. You see how these abilities right here all go on cooldown. So since it's on cooldown, Imperial Arrow is not, so you'll go and throw that in there before your next cast of like Venomous Plate or whatever. So you go ahead and like just kind of pop all these abilities right here. Again, Heavy Shot has a chance to proc your Straight Shot to be an insta-cast. So as you can see, we'll be casting, and then Imperial Arrow does not go off on the GCB, so you just go ahead and throw that in between your casts. That's when it's best to be used. Does a little extra damage. Costs a lot of tech though, but don't worry about your tech too awful much. Level 56, that's when we get Iron Jaws. Iron Jaws refreshes your dots. So if you put up Wind Bite and Venomous Bite, when they get down to about 3 seconds left, I'll wait up for it. When they get down to about 3 seconds left on whatever one's the closest, so you just cast Iron Jaws and that'll put both of them back up on the target to their full duration. So once you have a dot up on the target, or both your dots on the target, you'll just use Wind Jaws, or Iron Jaws, sorry, to reapply both of your dots, so you don't ever have to worry about recasting them again. The only thing about Iron Jaws is you have to be in Wondrous Minuet to cast it. See, if I switch out of it, I can no longer cast that. So if you're moving around a lot, you will have to reapply your things, but usually I'll just switch in Iron Jaws and switch out or whatever, but super useful. So level 56, that's when your quality of life as a bard increases substantially. 58, we get Wardens Pain. It's just to remove, like, if you have a poison on yourself or whatever, it's awesome. Or if you know your healer or tank have a debuff on them, it's an insta-cast, you can remove it. It's pretty awesome in that regard. As a bard, you're also a support class, so you do those kind of supporting abilities like Warden's Pain. We'll get into more of the bard support here in a second with the songs, but that's one of your key support abilities is Warden's Pain. And then at level 60, that's when you get Sidewinder. Sidewinder is really strong to cast every 60 seconds if they have both dots on them. As you can read the effect, it's increased to 175 potency with one effect, or 260 potency attack if you have both your Wind Bite and Venomous Bite up on the target. So if you just cast it with no dots, you're doing 100 potency. If you cast it with both dots up, you're doing 260 potency. So it's really important to have your dots up before you cast Sidewinder. That's pretty much it for the abilities. You don't really get anything here. That's basically all your important damage dealing abilities. We have some additional things that I would suggest getting. Your 3 most important abilities, you get cross class With Blood for Blood, you get that from Lancer, a level 34 Lancer, and you get Invigorate, which is a level 22 Lancer ability. It's really important if you want to play Bard at a high level, you want to get Blood for Blood and Invigorate. They're amazing abilities. And your level 30 ability, go ahead and get Internal Release. Increases your critical hit by 10%. It's just nice to just use every 60 seconds. You get that from Marauder. Or, sorry, Pugilist, not Marauder. You get that from Pugilist. And then level 40 and 50, you can get whatever you really want. I get Faint just because it's, just something nice. It's an insta-cast. And I think it does fire off the GCD. I'm not sure. I don't cast it very often, but it's kind of nice to have. It's really useful in PvP if you PvP. And then level 50 ability is Second Wind, just to help your healers out. Like if you know there's gonna be a big AOE hit or whatever, or something that you can't avoid, just pop your Second Wind, heal yourself up just a little tiny bit, just to give yourself a little bit of breathing room so you don't die immediately if your healers are maybe slacking or if they have something else more important to do. Alright, now we'll talk about the songs, how you work as a support class as a bard. As a bard, you have technically, I think 4 songs, including Swift Song. But I'm not going to count Swift Song because that's just something used in between pulls. So your important ones are Mage's Ballad, Army's Paean, and Foe Requiem. Mage's Ballad increases the mana regeneration of everybody in your party around you. And Army's increases the TP regeneration of all the party members around you, including yourself. Mage's Ballad does not increase your own magic. Army's does increase your own tech. So the one downside of these here is they will reduce your damage dealt by 10% anytime you have them up. But I know it sounds bad, but if your healer has 10% mana, you need to make sure you put up your Mage's Ballad. That is one important thing that a bard does. I have to sacrifice my DPS. Even if I'm the top DPS, I have to sacrifice my DPS for the better of the group. So a lot of times you have to use that Mage's Ballad. I tend not to use armies that awful much, unless it's like a tank or something that has no tech. Because if most DPS classes have a way to get their TP back, so if they screw up, I'm like, whatever, he kind of fucked up. Unless it's like a tank or something, because sometimes tanks have it a little bit more rough getting their AoE pulls and stuff down. So it's just kind of up to you. But I tend to prioritize, if anything, using mages if the healers have low mana. Your other song is Foe Requiem. It increases, it decreases the magic resistance of all enemies around you by 10%. It is just really strong to put on at the start of a pool, so like black mages and summoners and stuff do more DPS. So it's just, this one here actually does not hurt your damage dealt at all, so it's just good. Anytime you have extra mana or whatever, just throw up the Requiem really quick. And then this brings over to Battle Voice. Battle Voice, it used to take like 300 seconds as a recast time, but all it does is it doubles the effectiveness of whatever song you have up. I don't usually Battle Voice Foe after at the very beginning of a boss fight. I'll Battle Voice Foe while I have the full effect of it running, just to kind of help all the burst damage. But once you're in a fight, I usually save it in case I need Mage's Ballad or something. So it's good to use at the beginning of a pool, but then after that save it if the fight is dragging on or whatever. That's basically it. Your basic rotation is just going to make sure, just kind of hit things when they proc and keep your dots up. And like use your cooldowns anytime they're up. And then, of course, Bloodletter procs. Anytime it comes up, you just want to cast your Bloodletter. So I'll give a quick demonstration of the rotation. You'll always make sure your straight shot's up on yourself, and always make sure your dots are up on the enemy. And again, this is going to be focused on level 60 rotation. If you're not level 60, just going to have to kind of adjust. The same things apply. You want straight shot up at all times, and you want to keep whatever dots you have up at all times. So it's kind of an awkward place to stand. I'll just go over here and stand. Alright, so we'll just start off with a straight shot, followed by Bloodletter, Wind Bite, Venomous Bite, get those dots up, and then heavy shot, followed by Barrage, into Imperial Arrow, heavy shot. So how we're going, we're just kind of like using things as they come up. I'll just Sidewinder now. We have 3 seconds left, so I'll Iron Drills to get my dots reapplied. Straight shot came off, so I'll go ahead and straight shot again. Bloodletter, heavy shot, Imperial Arrow since it's off. That's basically what you're kind of doing, just kind of hitting things as they proc. I didn't use my buffs just because I'll use them later. So as you can see, I'm just kind of using things as they proc. I'm not casting this for here right now because it's going to keep procking several times. So this is just kind of like the basic rotation without using your buffs. So we have a straight shot proc that procs off of your heavy shots, so go ahead and prioritize using that. Anytime you get that straight shot proc, you just want to make sure you prioritize and quickly use that. Unless your dots are about to fall off, it is more important to reapply your dots. Once you're level 60, you only want to cast your Bloodletter really in between your shots or whatever. Like you don't ever want to Bloodletter first and then shoot, just because it's good to use that in between your GCD. So here we are, we're just kind of just using every single thing that procs. Reapply some dots again. And this basically is just what you're going to end up doing. And then, as you can see, you can move a little bit in between your casts, but you can't really move around a whole lot. And then Barrage with Imperial Arrow. Reapply your dots. And that's basically it. You're DPSing as a bard. A lot of heavy shooting and stuff like that. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and queue up for a raid, and so stay tuned if you want for the next Bard video. Anyway, until then, hope this helps. If you have any questions or whatever, leave a comment, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can.